Every 10 years or so, there's always some movies that play to the theme of the times. In the 90s, it was all about being happy while being unconventional. This is what I like to call the Generation X movies. Clerks, Slackers, Reality Bites, Wayne's World, and Singles were all under this category. In the late 90s, they were more about the perception of sense and what is not real. Fight Club, The Matrix, and American Psycho fall under that umbrella. Now, what I see are three movies that really question what is justice. In 2012, we had The Dark Knight Rises, Looper, and Judge Dredd. Let's start off with The Dark Knight Rises. The society in the Nolan universe never answers the question of how exactly or why the new League of Shadows were placed in such a bind that they decide to help a man in a mask that demanded their unwavering loyalty. We can infer that Gotham City was peaceful and financially booming during the years between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Even after Batman flees the prison from the middle of nowhere, he never comes back to free the others. He doesn't even seem to care about the guy that fixed his back and gave him hope. What was that doctor guilty of anyhow? We have no idea. Shouldn't Batman notify people about this prison somewhere in Bruce Wayne's will? Batman has a legitimate reason for going after Bane, because after all, Bane stole his money and attacked him for little reason. Batman's triumph, however, is an indirect victory for the corrupt. Bane didn't even want to kill all the police. He wanted them to see the world as he saw it and convert them with their own free decision-making. In Bane's dialogue towards Batman in their fight in the sewers, he explains a simplified version of Plato's cave allegory, which is in the Republic. Bane was born into darkness, ignorance, placed there either by bad luck or for those wanting to control him. He was also blind when he saw the light that is reality, real truth, not mere experiences. He's a soldier sparing that knowledge. It's just the way that he goes about it that seems wrong. The Dark Knight Rises is more akin to the true end of Batman Begins rather than a sequel of The Dark Knight, even with all the Harvey Dent references. Mainly because it was about Bruce Wayne rather than his villains. Bane doesn't even kill the cops because he knows that they can be a valuable asset to the new planned government. I think Talia's role was to live and then take over Gotham once the bomb went off. But that's just my opinion. Does it seem that the League of Shadows is just Plato's Republic regarding what is just played out in comics, cartoons, and movies? They don't seem that evil. They have some conviction to their beliefs with their head being Ra's al Ghul. The movie Looper was a story about vicious cycles that people perpetrate with their mistakes, lack of foresight, and overall bad judgment. The Rainmaker was a direct product of drugs and violence. All he wanted to do was stop the vicious cycle of life by putting an end to the Loopers, which are the hitmen for the Mafia in the future. It seemed that the Rainmaker had no other targets than the Loopers. Bruce Willis and Gordon Levitt's character, Joe, was portrayed as a sympathetic badass who's also a child murderer. I love the complexity, but making him that sympathetic, it ultimately shifts the focus away from the real problem, and that's the potential events that would lead to the creation of the Rainmaker that Joe would face in the future. This is probably the best of all the movies I'm talking about in this video because everything gets fixed with a little empathy, or at least empathy that could prevent things. The mother calming down her son, and the son being forgiving after Joe shot him in the damn face. The past versions of Joe realizing the pain that is caused by his actions and makes a split-second decision to rectify his life of those that he's interacted with and the future as a whole, which I found to be very positive. The 2012 version of Dredd, on the other hand, is perhaps the opposite of empathy. A large population is under surveillance, poor, have no hope, no empathy, and packed into a building with law enforcement having absolute power. There is one point in the movie where the judges are battling each other and sharing dialogue where the corrupt judge makes the point that the city is just a meat grinder and they're just the mechanism which people's lives are destroyed in some vague sense of justice. Our protagonist, Judge Dredd, has no reply to any of this. Both the main hero and the main villain of the movie have one thing in common, is that they are the best at what they do. That is to implement revenge. Madrigal, the leader of the Mama clan, was a prostitute that uses and sells drugs. After being beaten and scarred, she retaliates against her pimp and decides to use the same viciousness to gain power rather than just flee. What is shown in the movie is that there seems to be nothing to flee to. So she controls her little world full of society's undesirables and finds power in the confines of her environment. The same way that she kills people, using the drug to slow the perception of time down for its user, is the exact same way that she dies after being shot. Drugged, thrown out of a high-story window by Judge Dredd. There's no answer to solve the problem that plagues the building that they were in or society as a whole. There's also no caring about half an entire block that got shot up just for being on the wrong side of the gun. It seems as though that there is nothing but good guys and bad guys, and the innocents that are in this building have little no choice but to become bad if they ever want to have some sort of control over their life. I saw the Dredd movie for the first time after the events of Christopher Donner, a policeman that killed other police because he saw the corruption within the police force. He felt going to a higher official would not bring about the justice that he wanted. In retaliation to Donner's crimes, the police in LA and within its LA county, such as Torrance, where I spent some time growing up and graduate high school there, began to shoot random black people who were not sure was Donner or not. When Donner was found, they attempted to burn him alive in his own cabin in Big Bear. Social media outlets such as Facebook and Twitter was walled with this topic, mostly on the side of Donner. Cops are unlike people in general, but he was a cop killer. I believe that the actions of LAPD, the Torrance PD, and other PDs in the SoCal area reaction to having their power in jeopardy illustrated that justice at its current core is just merely revenge. Some say that a liberal is nothing more than a conservative who has not been robbed yet. But I don't believe that. But I want all my Donner-supporting viewers to ask themselves, in truth, how would you have reacted if you were a policeman? Are you different from the corrupt police? What is your take on justice?